Hey, Jericho.
Hi.
I feel like I say your name weird when I listen to the podcast, and I guess it's weird that I listen to my own podcast, but I want to make sure it's good, like quality control, but
Fair enough.
I say Jericho. I just say
You do say it weird. You say my surname weird as well. The whole thing is...
Mandy Burr.
Yeah.
How do you say it?
I say Mandy Burr, but I don't
But
know.
it just
It's
sounds
like...
so shitty in California, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
I
everybody.
sound like
It's
Luke
not just
Wilson
you.
saying your name.
Yeah.
So before we get into today's episode with the amazing Amber Venz box, I want to take a quick moment to talk about how to get out of a creative slump. We're all doing a million things at once now, and sometimes it feels like our creative brains are running off of the fumes of endless meetings and emails. So when you're feeling burnt out from all the non-creative work that goes into you being a creative person, what do? Where do you turn for a boost of inspiration and energy?
I'm a huge proponent of self-care. So when things simply become too much, I get really comfortable at home, do some Reiki, and try to decompress. I'll also try and read something strictly unrelated to work, something that's like just for fun for me, wild as that sounds. I also love popping into a museum and staring at a bunch of beautiful artwork. It's so refreshing after so many long days staring at a computer screen. What about you?
Oh man, the same. My boyfriend Galen and I actually took some pottery classes a few months ago. It was a while back. I think it was like my Christmas gift last year, maybe my birthday. Anyway, and it was so re-energizing to physically work with my hands, to like touch clay. It was that like moment in Ghost where like, you know, it's like so sensual. And I've always been really into photography, so I love going to museums and checking out exhibits. And I go to events here and there, even though I'm an introvert. I make it out, but I'm way less precious about it than I used to be. I'm 33, which is like still super young, but thank God I'm not running a fashion company anymore. But I can still be fashionable and comfortable at the same time when I'm out, and I've figured out how to do that. I've cracked the code. That's what is really the prevailing sentiment among this new class of creatives and entrepreneurs. It's just about what works for you. We wear what we want. We dress for us. It's not about having the perfect, little shift dress or business suit or, clackety clack of your kitten heels, right?
Gotta be comfy.
And we're working with Lou & Grey on a really cool editorial series right now that features a bunch of incredible creative women in New York City. And it's just all about that. They have these really beautifully designed pieces that are so crazy comfortable and soft. I went to their pop-up a little while back at the Grove. And, I mean, you touch this stuff and you're just like, how is this real? So it all makes perfect sense to take you from running around town to appointments to meeting with an old friend for dinner later that night. So check them out at louandgrey.com. That's LOUANDGREY.com to get some of that incredible stylish softness in your life. Success. It's such a complicated idea, and yet for so long we've all collectively subscribed to a single definition of the word, which was likely given to us by a white-haired dude somewhere in a boardroom in the 1960s. And there's nothing wrong with that definition, with the notion of climbing a corporate ladder with a singular focus. But it's time to make space for a few other definitions, for side hustles and well-being and failing forward, and for the idea that success is a wild ride, not the destination at the end of it. Join me for a journey into the lives of women who are redefining success and paving the way for others with grit and grace. I'm Sophia Amoruso, the founder and CEO of Girlboss Media, and this is Girlboss Radio. For every fashion blogger who's ever dreamed about making money from blogging or posting on social media, take a look at Amber Venz box. A few short years ago, Amber started a fashion blog. Now she's running a fashion tech company that has disrupted the industry and provided thousands of influencers lucrative jobs blogging and posting on social media about what they love: fashion. How did she do it? In 2011, Amber realized that women were buying the products she was posting about on her blog.
I was posting 3 times a day. It was full looks, trend advice, sale codes, anything that you needed to do if you were someone who wanted to shop. And I had cut myself out of my own business. My key customers that used to always book me, for seasonal wardrobes were just going to my blog and they could buy everything I saw online.
So she figured out a way, before anyone else, to get the retailers to pay her for the content she was blogging about. Retailers like Shopbop and Net-a-Porter. She launched, along with her boyfriend, who is now her husband, rewardStyle. And once she figured out how to make it work, she shared her recipe with other bloggers and created a network of influencers to reap the rewards.
We started sharing that with a few of my friends, which are now some of the biggest influencers in the world. But back then it was just, the small and mighty group of us talking about fashion online. And, they were able to move out of their parents' houses and start paying their rent and thinking about actually really growing a true business. And so by in the spring of 2011 was when me and my friends started using this.
Over the past 6 years, she's grown from a girl with a blog into a global network of 16,000 influencers that have generated more than $1 billion, that's a B, dollars in sales worldwide for their 4,000 retail partners and more than 500,000 brands.
We grew the business as we learned more about the things that were popping up in my business that we could solve. And our mission has always been to make our influencers, to really empower them to be as economically successful as possible through tech, through growth consulting, and then just brand relationships.
Today, she'll talk to us about innovation and creating successful brands in the digital space. But first, here's Jericho.
Hi.
Hi, Jericho.
Hello.
I'm enunciating your name.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. Oh, welcome back.
Thanks.
Where's your silver tooth?
I took it out.
Oh, did you get comments?
A bit black on the underside.
Oh.
And I was worried about what that meant for me, so I
what people
gave it a
might
rest.
think about you. Mm-hmm. So what's going on at girlboss.com this week?
So many things, but I want to talk to you about one story that I think you guys will like, because if you own your own business or you freelance in any capacity, you'll know that getting people to process your invoices, aka getting them to pay you, is the absolute worst ever.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, and did you know a Freelancers Union survey found that 71% of people who work for themselves have problems getting paid?
No, I've heard that people just straight up don't get paid at all. It's not just late, but they don't get paid.
Mm-hmm. I myself, as a freelancer, have just stopped following up with people and just cut my losses instead of, because I maybe didn't know at the time, how to go about it. So we basically have this story from a writer called Juliet O'Brien, who is brilliant, and she was inspired by the Rihanna song, Bitch Better Have My Money.
Amazing.
To write this story about how to get clients to pay you and some helpful tips.
How to get a client to pay you. So how do you get a client to pay you?
Step number one, you have to vet the clients and set up the rules from the beginning. Get it in writing. Make sure you have a clear agreement about exactly what you're going to do and the payment terms, including if they don't pay you by X date, is there going to be interest accrued, stuff like that. Signed contracts are great, but an email is just as great. You just have to have a record of it. So if anything happens, you have something to refer back to. You just have to follow up and don't be shy about it. Call them. Definitely. If you find that they don't respond to a couple of emails, just pick up the phone and call them, and there's no shame in harassing them. Mm-hmm. Calling is a kind of a psychological tool that you have at your disposal where you're on the phone with someone, they can't avoid you anymore. They have to be kind of held accountable.
I like the phrase, X number of dollars means way more to me than it does to you. And as a freelancer, I have all the time in the world to get it back.
Oh my God, just use that verbatim. Perfect.
I did that to hustle a $50 deposit for a credit check out of back from a landlord, because I submitted an application to rent a place and then left and drove off, and I was like, I don't want it. And 10 minutes later was oh, just tear up my application. Mm-hmm. But I'd given him a $50 check, and I scared the shit out of him because he was like, no. And then I finally called, and I was like, both my parents were in real estate, and $50 is a lot more money to me than it is to you, and I have all the time in the world to get it back.
Yes.
And he had a goon. He was and made me meet him at the bank, and had a goon and a witness just to make sure that I didn't
he was scared of you.
He was terrified. I was 18. Anyway,
that's amazing, and that's exactly how you do it. Exhibit A. You just have to be a hard ass and don't be afraid to hassle the shit out of them. And then if things are still going really bad for you, there's a couple of things you can do. You can do a Sophia and just like threaten them. Or you can like send a formal letter of demand with a deadline. Freelancers Union, we actually have links to like letter templates in this story on Girlboss that you can check out. So basically, you know, you can go to the small claims court. You can hire a collection agency. You can lawyer up if you like have the time and the means to do so.
Give them hell.
Give them hell. Just give them hell. And if it's like really stressing you out and you feel like it's easier to walk away, you can do that too, but give them hell.
Not yet. Not without giving them hell. Fuckers. So if you've been tuning in the last few weeks, you know that alongside our buds at Pinterest, we've taken it upon ourselves to shake things up midweek. That means Wednesday, and take back this hump day thing and make it better. So what if Wednesdays are an official thing? And we invite you to try out something new each week that'll provide a spark of productivity, creativity, or energy to your work week.
Yeah, and if you play along with us, not only do you give your work week a little boost, but you have a shot of winning 3 signed copies of the Girlboss workbook each week. And you can also win a couple of tickets for the Girlboss rally in 2018 in LA.
Yeah. So here's how it works. Each week, we provide everyone with a challenge. Then you head on over to Pinterest and scope out Girlboss's What If Wednesday Pinterest board for some inspo, and we can all reconvene here next week and see how it went. So this week's question is, what if you tried something new to invest in your personal growth? That's a good one.
When you're busy, doing things that make you feel powerful can be, you know, pretty tough. That's why this What If Wednesday, we're going to help you out by bringing a little vibrancy into your life. So we basically want you to find your power color. So that could mean, you know, you paint a piece of furniture this color, or you commit to like a full monochromatic look this week. But basically, you want to go on Pinterest and find your power color and then use it every day.
Power. Do you have a power color?
Red.
I've been feeling purple so much lately. Also, Pantone just named it Color of the Year.
Really?
Yeah. So check out our What If Wednesday Pinterest board for all of the color choices you could ever want. And so here's how you enter to win tickets to the Girlboss rally or copies of the Girlboss workbook. Pick the color that speaks most to your spirit, then share a picture of how you incorporated it on Instagram. So you're entering on Instagram using the hashtag WhatIfWednesdays, Girlboss Radio, and hashtag MyPinterest, and you could win a signed copy of my new book or appear on Girlboss.com.
Yay.
I want to talk for a minute to those online sellers who are listening to Girlboss Radio, because I know there's a lot of you. It's the crazy holiday season, and if you have time to listen to this you're probably packing and shipping as you're listening, because it's that time of the year. So think of ShipStation. ShipStation is the fast and easy way to manage and ship all of your holiday orders from one place. If you're using Etsy, Shopify, WooCommerce, any of the popular online selling channels, ShipStation integrates seamlessly and easily, has a beautiful interface, and brings all of your orders into that interface, making them so easy to manage from any device. And you can use it to create shipping labels for all of your top carriers, including UPS, FedEx, USPS, and they'll even tell you which carrier is offering the lowest rate. So,
Wow.
Jericho, tell our readers what our special offer is.
You guys, there's such a special offer right now. Try ShipStation.com free for 30 days and get an additional month free, but only if you use our offer code Girlboss.
So don't wait. Go to ShipStation.com, and before you do anything else, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in Girlboss. That's ShipStation.com. Enter Girlboss. Now here's Amber Venz Box, a woman who turned her love of fashion into a successful business and, in turn, created a space for thousands of fashion bloggers and style influencers to make money for something they love to do. So, Amber, thank you so much for coming on Girlboss Radio.
Sophia, this is an absolute honor. I am just so impressed with what you've been able to build, and I'm honored to be just sitting alongside all of the women that you have, brought on the show before me. So thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's a pretty amazing alumni network of women on this podcast that I feel lucky to be able to talk to for an hour at a time. So I want to start with the beginning. Tell me about your childhood. Where were you raised?
I was raised in Texas. I grew up in a suburb of Dallas called Garland, and I lived there until about 8th grade. And then my parents moved us really more into central Dallas, and I went to high school at Highland Park High School, about a couple miles from downtown, and then went to Southern Methodist University, which is also in Dallas. And I really spent my summers and time outside of the office working. So I did internships in LA and New York and studied abroad. And then I worked pretty much full time throughout school at a local women's wear boutique.
Oh, cool. So yeah, I read that you're a shop girl, a stylist, a model, a retail buyer, and a jewelry designer. And this was all before the age of 23?
It was super early. Yeah, you know what? I always loved fashion, and creativity was really encouraged in my household. And my mom always had us set up doing creative projects, and I wanted to be in the industry. And what to me, at an early age, that just meant wearing the clothes that all the girls wore. So, back when I was a child, my mom was reading People magazine, and I would flip through her magazines and see, I think, I'm trying to think back to some of like Jennifer Love Hewitt was wearing like a white Prada dress one time. And, I remember tearing that dress out, showing my grandmother, and we went and found, some patterns that were a little bit similar. And so we started making dresses. But there'd be other things like, I grew up in a family that could afford a great life for us, but I wouldn't by any means put us in a wealthy class. And so there were things that I saw in fashion that I wanted that I couldn't have. And so, being crafty, I was always making and creating those things, whether it was Jennifer Love Hewitt's dress or the wire earrings that Jessica Simpson wore that were sold down the street at the store that I actually ended up working at, really just because I wanted to be closer to the clothes and be able to touch and feel them every day.
Cool. And what did you study in college?
I went to school for corporate communication and public affairs, and then, of course, a sociology minor. I'm very interested in people in general, but that's not necessarily an education that gets you anywhere specifically in the world. But, traditionally, it was more around PR and just communication in general. And then outside of my degree, I worked as a stylist in LA, and then as a fit model and kind of wholesale intern in New York. And during this time, I also had my own jewelry line. And so that really positioned me in different areas around the industry and helped me to kind of learn how all the pieces work together. And I think that's something that's helped me in my career, is really understanding how all of the forces play together and what they need from each other in order to be successful. So, my schooling set me up well to communicate with people, but it was really the work experience in the fashion industry that I think set me up most for success.
Before founding rewardStyle in early 2011, Amber worked on all sides of the fashion industry. As a college freshman in 2005, she launched her eponymous jewelry line selling to retailers across the southern United States. Amber later worked as a freelance stylist, a fit model, and became a retail buyer for a luxury boutique after college graduation. In April of 2010, she launched her style blog VenzEdits.com, which she still runs today.
Before my blog, I mentioned I had this jewelry line, and I was also doing personal shopping on the side. And so what that meant was that I would take these, customers in Dallas into physical stores and dress them for events, or they would tell me they had a vacation coming up where they're going, and I would go to all of these stores, pull all the looks, bring them to their house, style them, and then whatever I ended up selling to them, I would actually earn a commission from all of those different stores. And I really loved doing that. I loved interacting with people, and I loved sharing my, styling skills. And it was just a great way to earn more income that I could put towards growing my jewelry business. And one January, my boyfriend at the time, now husband, Baxter, and I decided to take a trip to Miami. And we were there it was like a package deal I'd found online. It was literally like $1,000, and you could stay like 9 nights at this nice hotel, and it covered airfare. And so we did it, and we got out there, and it turned out to be the coldest week on record in Miami. And so we were really stuck indoors, or, eating, drinking, or shopping. And I went shopping at a store there called Alchemy, and I remember coming out, and Baxter was sitting outside, and I started rattling off all the designers I had just discovered inside and how cool the store was. And he so lovingly mentioned that I should maybe think about starting a blog so I could tell somebody who cared. And, our relationship is very much like that. I think we have a funny sense of humor, but I literally from that moment, we stood up and walked across from Alchemy, which was a Barnes and Noble, and got a notebook and started building a business plan to launch a blog. And the whole concept around this blog was I could use it as a place to, put my lookbooks for my jewelry line, and then also promote all the work I was doing in personal styling. So if I just was documenting all this work I was doing, the thought was I would sell more jewelry, I would be able to book more offline services in personal shopping. But very quickly, I learned that people really just preferred to shop online instead of booking my services. So that really led to the next, chapter in my career, and really was the beginnings of rewardStyle.
And so how did you get the idea for rewardStyle? Like, what was that light bulb moment?
Well, when I launched my blog, I had a lot of editor relationships in Dallas because of my jewelry line and from being a shop girl. And they, Dallas Morning News did this whole full page paper, and at the top, it said, "Meet the blogger." And it was my picture and this whole story about, you might know Amber from being a shop girl, or she has this jewelry line. Now she's taken actually all of that. She's put it online on this thing called a blog, and she's giving away her services for free. And I was so excited to have this full page article in the Dallas Morning News. I don't even think I read it. And the stores that I worked with were super excited. More publicity for me meant that my jewelry line was going to do better. And about 6 months in, I realized what they had said in the article, and that was that she's now giving her services away for free, because I was posting 3 times a day. It was full looks, trend advice, sale codes, all, anything that you needed to do if you were someone who wanted to shop. And I had cut myself out of my own business. My key customers that used to always book me, for seasonal wardrobes were just going to my blog and they could buy everything I saw online. And they would still text me. They thought that they're being supportive of my business by going to my blog and buying things. And so I'd get text messages saying, "Oh my God, I just bought the PS1 bag. I was the first of my friends to have it. Thanks so much. Love the blog. Keep posting." And I'm thinking, okay, well, I could have earned $100 commission by selling you that bag. But because you bought it online, I have no way to go back and be compensated for driving that sale.
That's when Amber figured out how to monetize her fashion blog. And she also recognized that if she could do it for herself, there would be no reason why she couldn't do it for scores of other women. So Amber launched rewardStyle, a monetization platform for influencers, with her then boyfriend, now husband, Baxter Box, back in 2011.
That's really kind of when it kicked off for us. Is Baxter was sitting with me, and I was like, I've literally cut myself out of my own business, and I'm still living at home with my dad. I'm eating cereal. I'm working harder than ever and making less money than ever. And his background is in engineering and tech investments, and he was like, I think I can help you, but help me to understand this world better. So like, dream world, how are you going to make money on this blog? And my background being in retail, I just said, I think it'd be so nice if I could just actually go to Neiman Marcus, for an example, and say, "Hey, Kim actually bought that bag because I told her to. Will you pay me a commission on the online sale the same way you would have if I physically walked her into your store?" And so the whole idea initially was just that, my business has now moved online, and so I need to move the compensation structure online as well. And so I just wanted to get paid for the sales that I was driving.
Wow. And do you consider it an affiliate business?
We leverage affiliate technology, but it's definitely not an affiliate business. There's a lot of technologies that I think we leverage within our business. Where we started was absolutely a commission on sales, but I think what's unique about it is that someone is actually creating original content about their life or their point of view, and they're incorporating brands into their world and then sharing that out with their viewership. And so it's very different than a traditional affiliate model, and especially today where the business has come. So if you look back at what you were doing back in 2010, 2011, at that time, that was when when phones were just starting to be built into cameras, when cameras were just starting to be built into phones. And so when I started my blog, I was carrying around this super heavy duty camera and taking photos and then coming back and editing them and uploading them to the blog. To create a blog post took several hours. And then, right after we launched rewardStyle, there started to be, decent cameras in your phone. There was also this new platform that popped up called Instagram. And so, at the time, me and my peers in the kind of the blogging world were like, this is so great. I can actually edit my photos on my phone. And we all thought of it as this tool that helped you to make really pretty pictures. And we didn't realize really that it was the next publishing platform. But, 2010, 2011, when we started, I had a WordPress blog. I'm using Facebook and Twitter to drive traffic to that blog. The next year, Pinterest came about. So 2012, it's another desktop platform, but a totally different type of creator. So for us, this was the first time that we thought, wow, this is a whole new type of person, but it kind of fits into the space because they're inspiring people and driving sales. And so we worked with Pinterest to be a whitelisted partner on their platform, and we tracked for brands, but again, still a desktop experience. The following year, 2013, Facebook bought Instagram. And that was the year that we really saw Instagram start to take off. But this was the first time we had a mobile platform and a mobile closed social platform. So with Pinterest, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, blogs, you could always link out to what you're talking about for your followers. You could provide them a high level of service. You were really connecting that inspiration with, the consumption. And within Instagram, it was this fantastic platform because you could create content really quickly, distribute it to a wide and growing audience, engage with your followers super quickly, but there wasn't a way to actually monetize the platform. So our first consumer product we created in 2014, really in response to that. And I think that's really where you start to see our business grow into more of like what we're seeing today.
Amber's most recent creation is LIKEtoKNOW.it, an app that makes it possible for users to buy merchandise that their favorite Instagram influencers post. When a shopper likes a picture on Instagram, she receives an email with information about where she can buy the item that she liked.
In 2014, we launched LIKEtoKNOW.it. And so the whole concept was that as our influencers want to create content in Instagram and consumers, it's an easy place for them to be. They're spending more time on their mobile device. We're going to create this tool that lives within Instagram. And by registering for LIKEtoKNOW.it, whenever you liked photos created by our influencers, we would just send you an email with that Instagram and all of the ready to shop information. And that was all created, by our influencers. They're the ones who said what was in their photo. We emailed it out for them, and we helped our influencers and brands transition their businesses into this, closed platform. Back then, 23% of the traffic we drove to retailers was mobile. Today, it's 67%. And so it's shifted incredibly into these mobile closed social platforms. And so it's big, LIKEtoKNOW.it has become a huge piece of our business. So the first year, 2014, it drove about $10 million in retail sales. The next year it drove 50 million. 2016, it drove 150 million. And we realized that this is actually the future of our business and the way people want to create content, and the way people want to consume content. And so just this April, we launched the LIKEtoKNOW.it app. And the app was just really a response to what we were already seeing in the market, the way that content creators wanted to create and distribute, and the way that consumers were shopping, which is completely socially inspired. And with the app, you can now take screenshots of content wherever you see it, whether you want to Google something or find it on Pinterest or on a blog or an Instagram, and we'll give you the product information immediately. Or you can even just go into the app and you can look at the home content or the Europe content or fitness or maternity or family or men's. And it's all categorized for you there, about 10 million pieces of content. And the reason I walk you through all of that is because what started as really a personal shopping business moved online back in 2011 today is really changing the way people shop. Actually, just today, we hit $1 billion in retail sales in a single year.
Congratulations.
It's transforming retail very quickly, and we're excited to be able to offer more value to consumers and brands and influencers.
Wow, that's incredible. So I want to go back to the beginning. Did you have investors? And I know you do now. At what point did you get investors, and what was that process like?
Yeah, so we really passed the hat to friends and family when we first launched the idea. So Baxter and I were paying really out of our own pockets to have this really MVP created. So, the minimum product that we could to get into the market. And that was like $1,000 at a time. As we had money, we're putting it in. We very quickly proved the concept because we already knew I was driving sales. And so this just proved that, yes, we can track it. We can actually connect that to sales and get paid on it. And so we started sharing that with a few of my friends, which are now some of the biggest influencers in the world. But back then it was just, the the small and mighty group of us talking about fashion online. And, they were able to move out of their parents' houses and start paying their rent and thinking about actually really growing a true business. And so by, in the spring of 2011 was when me and my friends started using this. And then by the summer, so June 1st, we decided to really actually and truly invest. And so we took a very small amount of kind of seed money from friends and family. We gathered them at a bar and just said, hey, this is what Amber's been doing. It's working really well for her and her friends. And we actually, when we look at the market, this seems to be where things are moving. We think you should invest. And so some of our friends actually said, well, Baxter, if this is such a great opportunity, then you should quit your job and do it. And that'll prove to us that the opportunity is real. And he actually did quit. So by December, he was working full time in the business and we had launched. And so we actually were bootstrapped as a business until 2015. So summer 2015, we decided to take a Series A round of funding led by Maverick Capital and a few strategic investors in the fashion space. And we have not needed any funding since then. So, being in Texas and being first-time entrepreneurs, we have a little bit of a different perspective on the world. We weren't in Silicon Valley, we weren't in New York, where, the big tech checks are being written. Also, Baxter at the time didn't have a network of technology peers. I didn't have any sort of, fashion credibility to speak of. And so we were sort of on an island down here, but in Texas, it's super business friendly. The business laws are complementary. It really allows you to reinvest in your people. There's no state income tax. It's actually, that's why you see so many Fortune 500 companies moving here. But we never saw our business as something that we were going to be able to get huge sums of cash to be able to run it. And so we've always really thought about it as we would run just kind of our own personal, checking account, which is just spend less than you make and grow and be as scrappy as you can to get there. So our funding story is a little bit different than other people, but I think it's allowed us to stay under the radar and really get ahead before anyone knew that influencer was going to be an industry.
Influencers have completely disrupted traditional marketing practices. By capitalizing on social media's reach, brands would rather not shell out for the relatively inefficient and hard-to-measure traditional advertising tactics. And Amber was right there leading the way.
I think it's the soul of the rewardStyle brand. It's the biggest thing that sets us apart. So we created rewardStyle not because we wanted to be tech entrepreneurs. It was that I really loved fashion and I loved working with people and showing them clothes and sharing all the things that I was experiencing with them. And, you got to think back at the time, I was a very small jewelry designer. I was working as a shop girl. Like I was doing very entry level things and grinding hard to be the best at those things. And so we didn't enter into this as this is kind of like our big ticket. It was just really to solve my problem and from a very, authentic place. And so we grew the business as we learned more about the things that were popping up in my business that we could solve. And our mission has always been to make our influencers, to really empower them to be as economically successful as possible through tech, through growth consulting, which is something that I needed from Baxter that I was able to get from him that we're now able to share through a platform, and then just brand relationships. So that's where we started and why we started. But the soul of our company, everything that we do, every investment decision we think is how do we empower the influencer? And I think that's very different than other companies who look to take advantage of a very new space. If you look at the type of client that we have, they very much reflect me. And that's, maybe they love fashion or style or home or interior. Like they're a very creative person. A lot of our clients have not had the opportunity to go to business school or had, 10 years working in a corporate environment. They're certainly not technologists. And so anytime you have that and you have a hyper growth industry, there's going to be predators. And I would describe a lot of, probably the things that you've seen as predatorial in the influencer space. And we're fiercely protective of our clients and have been really successful, I think, at educating them and professionalizing the industry and just giving them all the tools that they need to connect their consumers with the product. And we come at it, like I said, from this angle of purity, I think, and authenticity. And we're always solving problems. Other things that I've seen pop up in just fashion tech space in general are things that I would just never want to spend, my time doing, or they don't really understand the problem. Like, I don't want to go home and categorize my closet and upload every piece of item that, that I've ever bought. Like those are the types of things I think you see coming out in the fashion tech space. But I think we were there first. We solved the problem for the influencer. We've proved over the years that we are the market creator, the leader and the innovator. And so bringing things like to know it to the market, by the end of next year, Like to Know It will account for over half the retail sales that we're driving to brands. And that's a product that didn't even exist just a few years ago. So we're always thinking ahead and have their best interests at heart. And so I think it just comes down to the soul and the mission of the company. And of course, we have a lot of really great, strong people too. I think Baxter is one of the most intelligent people I've ever met and is an incredible strategist and kind of chess player in the business world. And so his partnership and expertise along with me just actually being our client, it's so far been a really unstoppable duo.
We'll have more with Amber in just a minute, but first, I want to tell you more about texture. Texture.
So many textures.
So many textures in your ears. Actually, Texture is an app where you can breeze through the pages of your favorite magazines, all for just $9.99 a month. So for unlimited access to over 200 premium magazines like Time, The Atlantic, The New Yorker, for you guys that are real smart, Vanity Fair, and Wired, which Whitney Wolf was on the cover of recently. And right now, you can actually try Texture for free. Access all of your favorite magazines, tons of their back issues for free. So to start your free trial, go to texture.com/girlboss. And if you choose to continue, podcast listeners will get Texture for just $9.99 a month. That's 30% off their listed price.
Whoa.
There's also great gift options available for the holiday season. So instead of just subscribing someone to one magazine, subscribe them to all of them.
This is the perfect present.
It really
actually
is. So, Jericho, tell our listeners how they can get a free trial of Texture.
Well, you just go to texture.com/girlboss to start your free trial today. That's texture.com/girlboss.
That's TEXTURE.com/girlboss. Now back to Amber Venz box. You founded a business with your then boyfriend, now husband. You have 2 kids. How do you make that work? It seems like an impossible scenario to some people.
It does seem impossible sometimes. When we started, we had been dating, or when we started rewardStyle, we had been dating for 2 years. And Baxter had helped me with my jewelry business. He had helped me to start the blog. So it made sense, of course, he's going to, help me with rewardStyle to get that going. But this is on a whole different scale. And we didn't know that at the time, when we were getting started. My other businesses were, I guess I would call like mildly successful, more like lifestyle businesses. But this one really took off. And I remember the first year of our relationship, it was really tough for me personally because we were just grinding 24 hours a day. And I will be candid that, the romance leaves the relationship when all you're doing is working all the time. And I just remember crying to Baxter early on and saying, I don't want this at all. Like I would much rather be in a relationship with you than to throw that all away for, to build a company together. Like there's other things we can do. And, we just kept pushing through, kind of kept grinding. It was really tough along the way. I mean, in our first office, we actually shared a desk. So he would listen to every single call that I made and would IM me, critiquing the things that I should have said or could have done better. And I mean, we were at each other's throats. But as we've grown, now we have offices that, are on opposite sides and we do different things within the business and we're not stepping on each other's toes. And we honestly really cherish our time together now and are so glad that we work together in the business because otherwise it'd be really hard to even see each other. But we did get married after about 6.5 years of dating. And around that time, we started just being much more intentional about our life and about our relationship. And so just kind of really getting things in order, even setting boundaries around our work day. So before, like I mentioned, we'd work around the clock. It never ended. Daylight really didn't matter. Mealtime didn't matter. And we started saying, okay, we're going to go home. We're going to have a finale to our work day and it's going to be, around dinner time. And once we get in the car on the way home from work, then that cuts off your ability to talk about work. And we're not going to talk about it until we get back in the car to go back to work the next day. And just setting little boundaries about like that around our relationship really, really helped. And then having children, we traveled with Birdie, my daughter, for the first year of her life. So she came with us everywhere we went. And that was, an incredible transitional period for us. And then now that I've had my second child, Boyce, it's tough because Birdie is just so mobile and so active and requires quite a bit. So it's unfair to really make her travel to London, Dubai, Brazil, all the places that we're going. And so the kids now stay home, and I'm just much more intentional with my time and the time away. But I'll tell you, I don't have it totally figured out yet. And mom guilt is a very real thing. And so luckily we've been growing our team in our leadership, which allows me to be a mom a little bit more. We just hired, in the last 90 days, we hired 4 new VPs and a new CRO, so a chief revenue officer.
Cool.
And that, allows us to actually have our weekends now. So next year I'm working towards just really getting to spend more time with Birdie, after work, because, you don't think about it before you have kids, but if you go to work all day and then you have a work dinner or work event at night, you just don't see your kids for a 24-hour period. And so I need to do a lot better on that side of life. But, it's a day-by-day progression.
Yeah, that's a problem I hope I have at some point. So, yeah, and I've heard that it is real. Being a working mom is not an easy thing.
Yeah, I think being older too, Sophia, I think one of the cool things for you too is like you've been through so much, and that like there's always tomorrow. So as much as we grind so much, I think like having perspective of having businesses under your belt and all of that, you'll be an incredible mother who is going to balance it so much better than anyone else. I think perspective helps so much.
Thanks. So you have offices now, New York, LA, Shanghai, Sao Paulo, Berlin. Where else?
London and Berlin.
Wow. So who operates all of that for you? And how do you keep your company culture, similar across all of these different offices and make sure that everybody in all of these different countries know what they're supposed to be doing and how they're supposed to be working together?
So these offices have grown over time. They definitely didn't just pop up all at once overnight, which is good. We saw very early in our business that we were getting applications from brands and influencers in London and France and Germany. And so we opened a London office in 2012 to really service Europe at the time. And so Dave, who runs that office, has been with us since the very beginning. He actually saw what we were doing here in the US and emailed me and said, "You don't know me. I have been admiring, your business from afar. I want to work with you, and I will, do anything to do that. In fact, I'm about to leave my job. I will work for you guys for free. Like, what do I need to do?" And I remember getting that email and just looking at Baxter, and I was like, this is so cool that this guy in London who has all of this relevant experience would love to work with us, but, I'm not getting paid. How are we going to pay him? And so, it did end up working out where we were able to bring him on, and he was very flexible with us. And now he is, running the European operation. After that, we started working on our Asia operation pretty early as well, but it takes years to get everything legally and technically in place in the country. It's like launching a completely new business because of the insular nature of the Asian market. And so after about 3 years, we were able to actually open our office there. But Asia is about 20% of our business. So it's a really important market for us. And we grew it here from home first, and then opened our office there to continue to grow the market and spend more time with our local partners. So we look at these other markets, and when we see opportunity, that's when we decide to invest. And I will say it's super hard having offices all over the country, because like you said, the rewardStyle brand, the rewardStyle culture is really important. And so Baxter and I currently are spending a lot of our time traveling and spending time with these teams. I think something I've really learned over the last year or so is that if I just invest my time in the leadership of our company, that it's going to be the best investment that I can make. So for me to spend time actually, executing certain plans, that's not that's not where my time is best spent. So therefore I am on the road a lot and just really pouring into each of, our leaders across these various offices. But we do have a very holistic company plan and goals that we are all working towards, and they're all very clear to everyone. And there's a singular goal for the year. There's the objectives and the priorities, and everything we do lines up to those. And we're quite organized in that sense, and everyone's goals align to those. And so that has been how we've been able to really scale our business. And people work at rewardStyle because they really love what we do. And therefore you have a company of people who are all about empowering, I guess for your sake that, like they're the mini girl bosses. Like we've really created a platform to grow them in their businesses. And people are really excited about that opportunity. And especially now getting to work in the consumer space is just even more exciting. I mean, we're able to attract more talent in that way, but we spend a lot of time on hiring and thinking about the right people as we grow the team. And as you get bigger, that is difficult. But I think the 3 key things that we always look for are hungry, hustle, and people smarts. And just kind of the values of the company when we look at humility and integrity. And that's really important. And I hope and expect that whenever anyone engages with anyone, whether it's our director of first impressions or, our CEO, that they feel those core values coming through in this person.
Did you say director of first impressions?
We do.
What is that? Tell me.
We have a scent too for the rewardStyle office. So brand is really important to us. And I think that, or I know that actually, today consumers, we think about the brands that we consume in, as a reflection of us. And so those choices become, with social media, they become much more obvious, the choices that we're making. And someone's choice to work with rewardStyle and align themselves to LIKEtoKNOW.it is, I think, in large part because they really align with our brand and what we stand for. And so it's really important that we're thorough and thoughtful. And I have to tell you, I love candles. And so we built out a rewardStyle scent, and those candles burn in every single office. They all smell the same. The floors are the same. The bars are the same. And so whenever you walk into any rewardStyle office around the world, you wouldn't know really which one you're in once you're inside.
But there's literally someone with that title?
There is literally someone with that title.
Are they a marketer? What do they do?
Yeah, so, they make sure that the experience when someone comes into the rewardStyle office is consistent on a global basis and just thoughtful and thorough. So
okay, got it. That's why you're talking about the offices.
Is the candle burning in the lobby, to how are the window shades opening, to what type of beverages do we offer this person, to, all the little things that you can think about. We also have a director of gifting, and that's just someone who thinks about brand and about the way that we, interact with people, whether it's guests in the office or clients that we are meeting with. So I think there's a lot of thought put into the way that we treat our people, not even just internally, but externally when they're welcome into the brand. Like everything we do really breathes the brand.
And if you're listening to this conversation and wondering, like I am, how you can be part of the rewardStyle network, well, it's invite only. So how do you score an invite? I asked Amber to tell us how she selects her influencers.
So I would relate rewardStyle to almost like an incubator. So we're looking to see who's investable. And so when an influencer applies, we're looking at any number of things. But really, I think in summary, it's, is this someone that we can monetize the entirety of their content in a meaningful way? And can we grow their business? And if the answer to those things is yes, then we bring that person on and we invest quite a bit in them. And we not only are giving them the technology they need to actually be able to connect their consumer with the products and experiences that they're talking about across their digital distribution, but 4,000 brand relationships. And so that's everyone from Gucci to CVS and Dwayne Reed and Amazon and Etsy and ASOS. I mean, it's anything that they want to talk about, which is an incredible opportunity for them to be in business with these brands immediately. And then I think the third thing that they get that's just really important to us is that education. And so I would look at rewardStyle almost like as a grad school for influencers, because they come in with these, incredible competency to create really engaging, beautiful content. And so we're teaching them really about the business of influence and how to think strategically about their business and how to grow it. So I think an incubator is the best way to describe it.
I asked Amber to give us some advice for those of you who might be wondering how you can make money on social platforms with a blog.
I think my first piece of advice would just to be to think hard about your own point of view. So what is it that you do on a daily basis? What are the things that you can capture that are interesting for people? and then play to those strengths. So is it that you are, a stay-at-home mom and that you love doing arts and crafts with your children, and you go on really unique vacations with your husband that are, all about living in nature? Like, think about whatever that is for you that is unique to your life, and then kind of map that out and think about, okay, do I have enough of this happening in my life to create content around? Am I willing to run a small business? Because influence today, it's not something that you can throw up on Instagram every now and then and hope that it's going to work out for you. It's actually, you are launching a business. You need a brand, you need a point of view. People need to know what they're getting when they come to you, and you need to be willing to create, as a starting influencer, I'd say easily 3 pieces of original content per day, and then also have the time not to only create and distribute the content, but actually build a community around your brand, just the same way you would do as if you're launching a retail site or a new app. It's all about finding the people who are going to be interested in what you're doing and actually entering into conversations with them, and becoming, a participant in the community. And that's not something that you can do an hour a day. It takes actually like quite a bit of effort. So I guess it's thinking about how much are you willing to give. And then, there's essentially a playbook now. You can look to see what have successful influencers done to get to this point. And then once you get to a certain level of competency and you've really proved out that you have the staying power within the industry, you work with rewardStyle and with LIKEtoKNOW.it so that we can augment your distribution further and truly help you to earn an income, on your business.
And before she left, I asked Amber to talk to us about her most recent Girlboss moment.
Basically, 2015 was when we raised our first round of funding. I was pregnant with my first child. We built a new headquarters. So I was, designing and building out that space. There's a lot happening in my world. And that year specifically, I needed to be more polished than ever because I'm sitting in investor offices trying to raise money and doing more press, or doing press actually for the very first time in our whole history. And so something that I found was that I could never get my nails done. So working as a shop girl, I could never get away during salon hours. Working, as a corporate working woman, I could never get my nails done. And so actually Whitney Wolf of Bumble is one of my very good friends, and we were both kind of lamenting this problem. And we recently, actually just about 2 weeks ago, launched an app called Cherry. And so Cherry is a nails anywhere, anytime app. So I'm able to book a Cherry in the morning at 6 a.m. before my flights, or at 9:30 p.m. after my kids go to sleep and Baxter's, in bed watching football or whatever. And so I would say when I was able to actually book a Cherry on my app and she came over and did my nails while we were watching football was maybe the most Girlboss moment that I've had in years.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I want an app to just send me my Girlboss moment. So what's next?
So we just launched, the LIKEtoKNOW.it app earlier this year, and 3 million people currently use LIKEtoKNOW.it. What we see is just that there's going to be a continued move from consumers into their mobile device, to where people, aside from sitting desktop at work, they're not even going to really have a computer. Everything that they do, whether it's ordering their car, their dinner, their massage, their nails, any of these things, it's all just going to be happening from their phone. And we also see the continued rise of these closed mobile social platforms. So a Snapchat, for example, is even more closed than an Instagram. And of course, they IPO'd this year. When we look to other markets, we see the same thing. So in China, everyone's doing everything from their phone. And also, WeChat is the market leader, and you pay for things from WeChat, you book things in WeChat, you communicate with your peers in the platform. So we're preparing for, a deeper mobile closed social world, and expanding really the reach of the LIKEtoKNOW.it tool. And it's really becoming a discovery platform of its own. This year, we actually have 83% more influencers earning over $100,000 a year than last year. And the biggest difference is just that we've released the LIKEtoKNOW.it app and been able to really thicken up the longer tail of influencers and make it something that's, you don't have to be an old school player in order to be hyper successful through the rewardStyle system. So I think that's something that I'm just really excited about.
Last question, success. So success is this thing that's different for everybody, and it can be, temporary, it can be, this ultimate thing. It can be financial, it can be personal, it can be professional. But for you, Amber, what is success? What does the word success mean?
I think there's so many layers of success. I think what you mentioned about with happiness is really one of the biggest ones, because there's been moments of success that have driven us forward throughout this entire experience. So the little wins, like whenever we got Shopbop to say that they'd be part of rewardStyle. You know, I was 22 years old and they had no idea that I was on the other end of the phone in my dad's living room and like broken out in hives because I was so nervous talking to them. But like that was this super successful moment. And I remember, you know, running to the top of the stairs and yelling down to my dad when we had driven $100,000 in sales. And I thought that was this moment. And then when we hit 30 people and 60 people and, you know, now we're almost at 250 and opening offices and raising this like Series A. And there's these cool moments along the way of, you know, the Forbes 30 under 30 or the Fast Company, most innovative companies. And so these things just, they happen, and it's kind of like this carrot that's in front of you always. So you're excited and motivated by the things that you're achieving, but you're always kind of looking to the next. I think something that I've really uncovered recently is just finding happiness in these moments and in these moments of growth and really appreciating them. Because I remember when, you know, early days when Baxter and I were, you know, in the business before we were married, and, you know, me being a Southern girl would always ask, okay, so what's the plan? Like, are we going to get married? What's the next step? And he was like, you know, once we just get rewardStyle kind of, you know, under control and things will slow down a little bit. Like we'll hire some more people and they'll help us run the business. And once things slow down, we'll get married. And they never slow down. They never get less complicated. In fact, everything is always getting more and more complicated. And so I think it's finding happiness in these key moments, and also just being intentional about the life that you're currently living. And I'll say that I'm definitely the happiest now that I've ever been in my entire life. And I think it's just because things are prioritized in the correct way. Not completely to where I want them to be, but they're getting more centered than they were before. So kind of putting faith and family first, and then business. And then, like I said, just really enjoying those moments. I think one of the most recent, pieces of success too, is just been able, us as a family, to give of our time and our finances to causes that we care about too. I think that was a moment where I kind of felt like adult is, you know, I'm first, you know, I get my paycheck and I'm thinking about the causes that I give to first before I put money into savings, before I, you know, I'm paying my bills. And that really gives you a sense of like peace and gratitude that this is like something bigger than just yourself or the next handbag.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on Girlboss Radio, Amber.
Thank you, Sophia.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Girlboss Radio. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, Satanica,
Kwanzaa,
whatever it may be for you.
Atheism, Capitalism Day.
Just whatever you do, I hope you have fun doing it. Well wishes into 2018.